Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you very much for stopping yet again. Now, the last video I did was titled Part 1, and I assume many of you are here thinking this is Part 2. Well, it's not. I finally decided, that a little delay with that one was needed to happen because the elections were being held. People were hearing about them. I was getting feedback, people were not understanding what's going on and so forth, and concerned and all this business. So I thought, okay, they were held on Sunday, and the results are almost completely done. There's, I think, one member of the National Assembly still in dispute, although that may have been settled by this time. I'll find out tomorrow. Anyhow, it's not a big deal. The important thing to understand is that it was a very controversial election. And the gentleman, if I tried to describe it all here, it would be a waste of your time, because one of the candidates had been president, and he had been arrested, and he had been found guilty of a serious crime of corruption. And the result is that he was not allowed to run for president, but somebody else did in his behalf, and it got really complicated. Do me a favor, don't even stop for a minute and try to apply your country's politics to this situation. It's one of the biggest errors people make who come in. They have nothing else to compare it to, so they compare it to their own, and they can come up with some really weird things. This is an exceptional situation, and very much so. And everybody knows it. Everybody in the country knew this. This was hardly a big secret. And there was a lot of talk, and there were disagreement as to how it should be dealt with for good reasons. And the Supreme Court finally got involved with it, just as they did with the mine. And this is the court that put this gentleman, convicted him of corruption. And now they intervened, and they did not. The attempt was being made to take that party right off the ballot, because he could no longer be on the ballot. So his candidate for vice president, Mr. Jose Molino, stepped up, moved up to the presidential candidate, and didn't have a vice presidential candidate right there. Well, a lot of complexities constitutional here, but the simple point is this. We, in Panama, we really value democracy in ways that you may have forgotten in your country if you've had it a long time. Our turnout in this election was 78%, and that's, or almost. I think it got almost there. Yeah, 77.6, whatever. That's really high in comparison to a lot of countries. But by the same token, the average over the last few elections has been like 73, so it's not exceptional. We vote. And people just show up, and they will stand there as long as they need to, and they will vote. And I saw them, the voting places very near me, just thousands, and lined up and moving right straight through it, and friendly and cheerful and sunny day, thankfully in the city at least, and I think pretty much everywhere. It went very, very smoothly. It went exactly as it has always gone in 2004, 2009, 2014, 2019, and now 2024. I mean, these are elections with which I'm familiar, and there is a dispute going on, one in the counting of ballots in one case, and so forth, but this is just what happens in democracies, nothing significant, no violence, nobody was hurt. Well, there was a sharp exchange of words, but people intervened in that particular instance to get people to stop hollering at each other. That's not acceptable behavior in an election place. So it went on very, very calmly. The gentleman, Mr. Molino, or President-elect Molino, won. He got the most votes, and we don't have a runoff election or something of this sort. That might have led to a different result, but no, that's too bad. That's the way it's done. It's been done since for a long time. So he won, and he got a clear, he got a third of the vote, about 34% of the vote. But the votes were so divided amongst several other candidates that the one following him was almost 10 points behind him. So as a result, he clearly won. And as I always do, and I would do it right now, is I will congratulate the President-elect Jose Molino and hope and pray on behalf of all Panamanians that he has a successful administration and that we all find ways to work together. So that's just it. That's exactly how I feel. I don't take sides in these things. I just don't. And I understand I have friends who have very strong feelings. There were a lot of strong feelings. But if push comes to shove, we treat each other with respect. And they really, really do. And this particular question, which had become a legal question and then into the Supreme Court's hands and so on, very interesting. And what you need to understand is that the November demonstrations did an important thing. It was very useful. And they told the ruling group, so to speak, the people who typically run politics here, they were out of touch. Yeah, this is a family nation, and yeah, people did talk in politics in their families all the time. But in those families that had been involved in politics for years here in Panama, I think they just heard each other speak. They may have heard from their kids that, this thing was going on in TikTok and so forth. But adults, the older adults, did not take them seriously. And then boom, all of a sudden, there they are, 100,000 in the streets. And I reported from that, and that was a remarkably quiet demonstrations, but they made their point, and it was good in the long run. It did drag on a little bit longer than we'd hoped, but the point was made. You aren't listening to us, and we are very upset, and we're upset about corruption. That is number one on our list, and the lack of connection with the people who you pretend to represent. Whoa, okay, now that's exceptional, but without any violence at all. 2 people were killed in that, but that was by a very seriously emotionally disturbed Panamanian who just did it and horrified everybody who saw it, and who was, I can assure you, in jail, and it's not likely to get out of there anytime soon. Anyhow, whatever the case may be, it was exceptionally calm and organized and positive. And I was out there with them. I saw what was going on, not to join them, but to be with them to see how it went. And I was really proud of them. Like I say, it dragged on a little bit, but it's okay. So we had a drop in the economic activity of November, but we came roaring right back in December and made up for that. I could toss you out a graph on that, but I'm just trying to keep this moving so we don't hear all day. Now, that was in November. And the question was, how is this going to affect the elections and so on? As we got into this most recent dispute, and as the Supreme Court was being pushed toward making a decision it didn't want to have to make, and the Electoral Tribunal, which oversees elections here, just said, no, we're not making this decision. The court has to. So we all knew it was a difficult one. What happened then in April was the most unusual thing, and it underlines that no matter how many other countries here will criticize Panama from time to time, it's frequently out of envy and jealousy. I say that, too, because they don't have anywhere near as good a situation, even with our problems with the canal and water. We're better off than so many of them. And having lost our credit rating standing with one of 3 agencies, well, the majority here just don't have that standing at all. I mean, Costa Rica's a couple levels below us. I mean, you wouldn't think that way superficially, but it's the way it is. So it's not unusual for people to feel good. They're taking some lumps too. They should. They're not so almighty. They're not so perfect. See their problems. In fact, a letter was sent on the 3rd of April to everybody of any significance here in the political situation. It had been written and signed by 20 ex-chiefs of state, presidents, prime ministers, and what have you, who had led and won and led in democracies in Latin America, who in the past had no intentions of running again, so they're out of the political picture. But they have seen what goes on when things aren't handled well in a democracy, and the voters end up being frustrated and get very, very angry. And fundamentally, the letter said this, is that the utmost importance is that you be aware that the people have to be allowed to make the decisions And your Constitution and everything, and common sense, and everybody's experience is that when you interfere with that, you are making perhaps it's easier for you today, but it's not going to be easier for you tomorrow. Don't do that, please, please, please. Don't do that. And that was signed by people from Argentina, from Brazil, from Chile, from Ecuador, Colombia, Costa Rica had 3 presidents signed it, even Nicaragua from the old days, all these places, and from Panama, Maria Moscoso, who was president from 1999 to 2004 and was president when I first arrived here, in the end of her administration, she was a signer too. And it was a very well written and very powerful letter, and it certainly caught people's attention. It was reprinted in every newspaper in the country, and everybody had a chance to look at it. So this is all going on. What you may not know, you may have heard there was some sort of controversy going on, but you don't realize these things are going on too. And so it is that we move forward. I will say this, and this is as political as I say during the entire thing, I believe, and that is Mr. Martinelli, when he ran in 2009, got 60% of the vote and a majority in the National Assembly. His candidate who replaced him in the ballot, Mr. Molino, received 34% of the vote and is a long ways from a majority in the National Assembly. So this is, you have to understand, this is a challenging situation. It was going to be for whoever got elected, even had it been one of the other candidates. It wasn't going to be easy. So in many respects, this is what the court decided. They too made their decision right at the end, and they said, all right, they said, we can be detailed and we can catch things in details here and whatever. But they said the same thing the letter said in different words, and they said, our responsibility in the Constitution, very clearly stated in the Constitution, is to assure that democracy survives and moves forward, and that the people have the right to choose and to be chosen, to elect and to be elected. So they did that, and they allowed the election to go on as it was, which we all expected. Now, nobody was surprised by that stage of the game. It was held, and the votes were counted, and it was very peaceful. Now, since then, people, some of the websites will go, "Woo, this is terrible," and he says that he's going to do something about the Darien Gap and the movement across the border. But if you've actually read his interviews, when asked what he's going to do, he says, "I don't know. I'm going to have to figure that out, and I'm going to have to sit down with the government of the United States and the government of Colombia, who are both involved with this. One receives them, the other sending them, so to speak." And Colombia has not been especially cooperative in this area, because I think from their perspective, maybe it's just as well they pass the problem on to us. And of course, we pass it right on up the border too. So it's one of those things. It's been around for a long time, and people are very well aware of it. So we'll see what he does with that. There will be an attempt, always is, to reach out to others, and that's underway, looking to make some sort of coalition to provide him with a majority. And if not, then he's going to have to do it. He's going to have to choose his legislation wisely and then make a persuasive case for it. The general feeling in most elections here is that he deserves the chance to get his program in place. And so we'll see. That he has until July 1st. He's inaugurated on July 1st. Okay, it's the first Sunday in July. And then we start. I encourage you to wait, and if you have all sorts of excited comments from websites that are trying to make some more money off this as long as they possibly can, then I remind you that things really changed, and we noticed that. If you follow the newspapers here, you would know that. And you'd say, what about all those young adults in the November demonstration? Where were they? They were running for office, and they were running as independents. 5 of them had gotten elected back in the last election in 2019. This year, 21 of them, or 20, and maybe 21, got elected. No, I take that back. 21, I think, has actually got elected. So, wow, big jump, 21 out of 50, 71, that's impressive. Then there are 4 others who ran as independents the last time but formed a party called the Movement for Another Path, and they picked up 4 seats there. Their candidate came in second after Mr. Molino. That's 25, and it's not too hard to see a couple others working with it. But the important thing to understand is that already the independents, whose average age is 37, they are very important people, and they know it. And 15 of them have formed an informal group called Vamos, Let's Go, and agreed to a statement of principle and so on. So I think everybody else is going to too. I don't know, maybe they were predominantly from the city area, but whatever. And their 15 seats are more than any single political party has, including the one that just won the election. So that is pretty unusual. And I'm going to put a link into Bro, and you can take a look at the list of the independents that at that stage had won. There may be something in dispute. We'll find out. But you see beside them a single word. It's an image, so it's not text. You can't just copy it into Google or whatever. You can do. There are things you can do with Google to do it, but that's not the point. The point is that all you need to do is just take a look at it, and you'll probably figure out what most of the jobs are, like executive assistant. Abogado is lawyer. We've got a few lawyers, but we have a lot of things. We have students, estudiantes. We have 24-year-olds. The youngest is 24. The oldest is 59. But the average is 37, and the largest single group are in the 30s. That's 9 of them, and 6 are in their 20s, and they really cover the map of jobs and backgrounds. And I don't let those backgrounds think one is an actress who's running. Don't kid yourself. These are very intelligent people. They had to work hard to get where they are. They had to convince some very skeptical. And there were other independents also running in the same seats, and they had to defeat them and so forth. So all of them had to be able to communicate, and small budgets, to put it gently. And they worked their butt off, and they got the job done. So this is the training ground for the presidential candidates of the future. And they're a whole new crowd, and it's going to change everything. And watch that like a hawk, because that's where the real importance is. And I think that's good, because we can't just go from old to young overnight. We're going in stages, and this is a big step up. But so was November. So was the last election when 5 independents got elected, and that was considered pretty amazing. Now we have all these. This is useful. And I'm going to show you a picture here for a moment here. That's Mayor Mizrachi. He is our new mayor of Panama City. He was an independent, as you might guess. I use this photo because I wanted to stress 2 things about Mayor, is that he's young and that he's enthusiastic and cheerful and positive. And he is, and he's a very, very good communicator. He is an entrepreneur. He has set up his own business. He's been through it all. He is a really experienced man, and he can communicate like nobody else I've seen. And he's shown some humility, which is good. Like, I don't know what this is going to do to my self-image, and I'm afraid it'll make me somebody I don't want to be, and so on. More power to Mr. Mizrachi and all the others. And that generation is the generation to be watching, and they're going to be critical, and they're going to start helping run things right now, or as of July 1st. It's interesting. It's positive. We have a lot ahead of us. We've gotten to where we've gotten by not being nasty and ugly and screaming and rioting and doing all the ugly things that we see people do in countries all over the world. We have our very strong disagreements, and they are strong. But we never forget. You be polite, you can be decent, and in public, you watch your tongue. And you're a Panamanian, you're a patriot, you're viewed by the whole public of the rest of the world. You just be cool and do it the way we always do it. And that's exactly what they did much to the disappointment, I suspect, for more than a few people who came in from Europe and possibly from North America to get film of the disturbances that we didn't have. We're very sorry. And maybe if you come down a year or two, we could put together a disturbance of some sort, get a couple dozen of us together. We could all, sit around and go boo, ah, ooh. But, you're going to have to pay for that. So that's it. I wanted to assure you the country moves on. It's not going to be easy. It is going to be rocky, and we're going to have a lot of decisions that are made, and some of them are going to be easy, and most of them are going to be difficult, and they're going to require a lot of cooperation, and everybody involved knows that. So we'll see it unfold as it does over the next few months and years. So thank you for your patience in putting up with this. I just wanted to let you know what happened and how happy we are that it's over.